The lower market of Station Varos buzzed with noise. People from 100 different species walked between metal stalls. Voices shouted in strange languages. Bright lights blinked from old signs. Smells of fried protein, engine grease, and burned oil filled the air. But in one dark corner where the lights had long gone out sat a small alien girl. No one knew her name, no one cared. She looked thin, just skin and bone. Her purple skin was now gray with dirt. Her hair was like dry wire, tangled and sticky. Her eyes were a dull yellow, wide with fear. She wore nothing but old rags, barely, covering her small body. People walked past her, they whispered cruel things. She stinks. Looks like trash. Why doesn't someone throw her out? No one stopped. No one helped. Some even laughed. The girl did not cry. Maybe she had cried too much before. Now she just stared down at her knees, hugging them tight. Then someone did stop. A human. He looked like a worker, maybe a ship mechanic. He wore a faded jacket, black pants with tool loops and heavy boots. Grease stained his hands. His face was rough, tired. But his eyes were kind. He saw her. He didn't look away. He didn't whisper. He just walked closer and crouched down in front of her. The girl flinched. Her whole body tensed like a wild animal about to run. But the human didn't shout, didn't reach. He pulled something from his jacket pocket. A protein bar. Simple. Wrapped in silver. He held it out. "You hungry?" he asked softly. She didn't answer. He placed the bar on the floor in front of her and backed away. For a long moment she stared at the bar. Her fingers twitched. Slowly, very slowly, she reached out, grabbed it, held it like treasure, then began to eat like she hadn't tasted food in days. The human watched in silence. When she finished, she looked at him. Her eyes were different, now still scared but not as empty. He smiled a little. "You look cold," he said. She looked down, ashamed. Her tiny feet were bare on the cold floor. Her hands were shaking. Then he did something that made the whole market stop. He took off his jacket, a warm, padded one, old, but clean. He walked forward and gently draped it over her shoulders. She froze, her eyes wide again. Voices started rising. "Hey, what are you doing, human? Don't touch that thing. She's dirty. You'll get sick." He didn't listen. "She's not a thing," he said quietly, standing up. "She's a child." The girl didn't speak, but her small hands clutched the jacket tightly. A trader nearby spat on the ground. "That thing? She's been sitting there for weeks. No one wants her. She's useless." The human turned to him. "Then why does that make her less than you?" The crowd went silent. He looked back down at the girl. "Do you want to come with me?" he asked. She didn't move. He reached out his hand, slow and steady. Her eyes stared at his hand, and then, after a long pause, she took it. The market exploded with noise. "You're taking her home? Are you crazy? She'll bring trouble. You'll regret it." But the human ignored them. He lifted the girl up in his arms. She was light as air. She didn't resist. She just rested her head on his chest. And he walked away. Through the shouting crowd, past the stairs, out of the market, and into the unknown. He didn't know who she was. Didn't know what happened to her. But in that moment, none of it mattered. Because someone finally cared, someone finally said enough. And for the first time in her young, broken life, the alien girl felt safe. The girl had never been inside a real home, not one with light, with walls that didn't smell like trash, with a door that locked, and a ceiling that didn't leak. She stood just inside the human's small apartment on the outer ring of the station. It wasn't fancy, only one room, a bed, a workbench, and a small kitchen. But to her, it felt like stepping into a dream. Her bare feet didn't like the clean floor. She kept looking around, nervous. Every sound made her jump. The human, named Ray, didn't speak much. He just closed the door, took off his boots, and pointed to the corner. "You can sit there," he said gently. "It's warm." The girl didn't move. She still had his jacket wrapped around her thin frame. It was too big for her, dragging on the floor, but she clutched it like a shield. Ray didn't push. He walked over to the wall screen, tapped a few buttons, and set the water. Steam started to rise from the small shower stall across the room. Then he looked at her. "You want to feel clean again?" She blinked. He smiled. "You don't have to be afraid. No one's going to hurt you here." The girl slowly nodded. Ray got up and walked to a locker. He pulled out a clean towel, a soft shirt, and a pair of old shorts. "These might be too big," he chuckled, "but better than rags." He placed them on the chair and turned his back. "I'll give you space, just yell if you need help." She stepped closer to the shower. The glass door opened with a hiss. Warm steam touched her face. It was strange, but not scary. She stepped, and at first she just stood there. Then the water came. Warm, gentle, clean. Her breath caught. She closed her eyes. The dirt ran off in streams. Brown, gray, black. It poured down the drain like it had been stuck to her for years. She touched her arms, her face, her hair. Tears began to fall, but not from pain, from something else. Something she hadn't felt in so long. Hope. Outside, Ray listened. He didn't hear crying. He didn't hear panic, just the soft sound of water. Minutes passed. Then the door hissed open again. She stood there, wrapped in the towel. Her violet skin was brighter now. Her hair, though still messy, had color again. Her yellow eyes looked unsure. Ray turned around slowly, and for a moment he just stared. She looked like a child again. Not a thing. Not a creature. A girl. Real. Alive. "You look like yourself now," he said. She looked down, then up again. Then, very softly, she spoke. One word. "Why?" Ray blinked. "Why what?" She hesitated. "Why did you help me?" The question hit him hard. He knelt down to her level. "Because no one else did," he said. "Because what they said about you wasn't true." She stared at him. "I don't know your name," Ray added. "But you deserve to be clean, safe, alive." She looked like she wanted to cry again, but didn't. "My name is Luma," she whispered. He smiled. "That's a good name." Ray stood up and offered her the clothes. "Here, they're yours now." Luma nodded, took them, slowly dressed. The oversized shirt almost looked like a dress on her. The shorts were too wide and needed a knot. But she didn't care. For the first time in ages. She was warm, full clean. She sat on the floor near the heater and hugged the jacket close. Ray began making something simple, boiled nutrient soup. It smelled better than anything she had ever known. And as the steam from the soup filled the room, so did something else, silence. But not the cold, empty kind. This silence was soft, peaceful, safe. That night, Luma didn't sleep on the bed. She curled up on the floor, near the small heater, still wrapped in Ray's jacket. Ray had offered the bed twice. She had shaken her head both times, eyes full of fear. Not at him, but something deeper. Something from before. He didn't force her. He just pulled an old blanket over her small body, lowered the lights, and sat in silence. She fell asleep fast. But even in sleep, she trembled. She made no sound, but her fingers twitched. Her face twisted like she was running from something in her dreams. Ray watched from across the room. He could fix broken engines, repair dead ships. But this kind of brokenness, he didn't know how. When morning came, Luma was already awake. Sitting. Watching him. She didn't say anything. Ray yawned, stretched, and smiled. "Sleep okay?" She nodded, but it wasn't true. He could see it in her eyes. He didn't ask. Instead, he walked to the kitchen corner and started heating more soup. You ever had pancakes? He asked casually. She blinked. What? He laughed softly. You'll like them. As the pan sizzled, the smell filled the room. Luma sniffed the air. Her stomach growled. Ray smiled and placed a small plate in front of her. The pancake was soft, golden with a touch of sweet syrup. Luma poked it with her fingers first, like it might vanish. Then she took a bite. Her eyes widened. She looked up at him. Warm. Yup, he said, sitting down. Just like people should be. She didn't answer, but she kept eating. Halfway through the meal, Ray noticed something, her arm, where the sleeve of the oversized shirt slipped down. He saw it, a scar. Long, jagged, deep. Not old, not healed right. His heart sank. He kept his voice calm. Luma, who did that to you? She froze. The fork slipped from her fingers. For a moment, she couldn't breathe. I'm not gonna hurt you, Ray said gently. But I need to know, so I can help. She looked down at the floor. Her small shoulders shook. They said, I wasn't useful, she whispered. Said I was trash. So they burned me. Ray felt something deep in his chest. A silent fury. He didn't show it. He moved closer and sat beside her on the floor. Listen to me, he said quietly. You are not trash, you're not broken, you survived, that's strength. Luma looked up at him with teary eyes. Why do you care? She whispered. He didn't answer right away. Then he said, because someone has to. Because no one cared. For me either. When I was small? Luma blinked. You too? He nodded slowly. Different story. Same pain. She stared at him, like she was seeing him for the first time. That's when she moved. Very gently, she leaned against him. Just her head on his shoulder, no words, just warmth. Ray didn't move, didn't speak. He let her stay there as long as she wanted. They sat like that for a long time. Two broken souls. Two different worlds. One quiet moment. And in that moment, something changed. The scars didn't vanish. But they didn't feel so heavy. Not anymore. Ray was working on a broken plasma core in his small shop when he felt something. A shift. It wasn't the noise. It was the silence. The kind that comes before trouble. Back at his apartment, Luma was cleaning the table. She liked to keep busy. Her small hands moved carefully. She didn't speak much, but her eyes were brighter these days. She even smiled once yesterday. But today, that smile was gone. She felt it too. A cold feeling in her stomach. Then, a knock. Hard, sharp, angry. Luma froze. Ray stood up fast, wiped his hands and stepped toward the door. The knock came again, louder. Ray unlocked it and opened it just a little. 3 figures stood outside. 2 wore dark coats. Official coats, with silver emblems. The third stood behind them, tall, ugly, smiling too wide. A sworn traitor. Ray narrowed his eyes. Can I help you? The man in the middle held up a small tablet. Station security. We're looking for a missing property, runaway alien girl. Ray didn't answer. She was last seen in the market, the second officer said, and was taken by a human. Ray's voice was calm. She's not property. The Sorn behind them laughed, a deep, wet sound. She was mine, he said. I paid for her, fed her, kept her alive, and then she ran. Luma stood behind the door listening. Her knees went weak. Her breath came fast. She couldn't move. Ray opened the door wider. She's not going anywhere. The officer stepped forward. If you're hiding her, that's a violation. She's registered as salvaged goods, unclaimed, unsold. She's a child, Ray snapped. The Sorn sneered. She's trash. I picked her up from a dead freighter, fed her scraps. Let her live in my crates, I own her. No, came a soft voice behind Ray. They all turned. Luma stood there, not hiding now, not shaking. I'm not yours, she said. The Sorn's smile dropped. You little. Ray stepped in front of her. If you touch her, I'll break every bone you have. The security officer raised his hand. Enough, sir. You're interfering in illegal. Ray pulled something from his pocket. A scanner chip. This says I claimed her under emergency protection law. Article 434. Sentient minors found abandoned without care. The officer looked at it, scanned it. It beeped, registered, active. The law was old, but it was real. The Sorn's face turned red. She's mine. No, the officer said flatly. She's his ward now. You didn't file ownership correctly. No contract, no care record. You abandoned her. She ate my food. She was starving in a crate, Ray growled. You don't feed someone, just to chain them. The security officer sighed. You lost her, it's done. They turned to leave, but before they stepped away, the Sorn leaned close to Ray. This isn't over, he hissed. She's marked. Others will come. Ray stared into his eyes, let them. The door shut. Silence again. But this time, Luma didn't shake. She stood by the wall, hands tight at her sides, breathing fast. Ray walked to her. You okay? She nodded, then suddenly wrapped her arms around him. Tight. I thought I'd have to go back, she whispered. Never, he said, and he meant it. Days passed, then a week. Luma changed, but not in the way people expected. She still spoke little. She still looked over her shoulder sometimes. But now, she held her head a little higher. Ray had started giving her small tasks, simple things at the repair shop, handing tools, checking battery levels, pressing buttons on his scanner. She learned fast. He noticed how sharp her eyes were, how she remembered things after seeing them once. You've got a smart brain in that head, he told her. Luma smiled a little. Just a small one, but it was real. That day, Ray handed her a small toolkit. You're ready to do more, he said, but only if you want. She nodded quickly. There was something new in her, a spark, a quiet fire. That night, she sat near the heater, holding the toolkit like it was made of gold. Ray sat nearby, fixing a busted drone. After a long silence, she asked, what do humans do when they're scared? Ray paused, surprised by the question. Well, he said, some run, some hide. He looked her in the eyes. But the good ones? They stand up anyway, even with fear in their chest. Luma nodded slowly. She didn't ask anything else. The next morning, Ray woke up to find the toolkit gone from the table. And the girl? She was in the back room, disassembled an entire rusted motor on her own, sorted the parts into neat rows, cleaned the tools. He blinked. She turned, nervous. I didn't break it, Ray laughed. No, you fixed it, she beamed. But that peaceful moment didn't last. That same afternoon, a data ping hit Ray's console, encrypted, from an unknown sender. One word in the message, sold. Ray's jaw tightened. He knew what it meant. Someone had paid for Luma. Under the table. No legal process. Black market. Hidden trade deal. And now they were coming to collect. Ray turned to Luma. We have to talk. She sat beside him. He told her everything. She listened without blinking. Then she said, I don't want to run again. Ray looked at her carefully. Then we train. That evening, he set up a program on the holopad, basic defense, evasion, strength drills. At first, Luma struggled. She was small, thin, but she didn't give up. She trained in silence. Every day, Ray taught her how to move, how to dodge, how to defend. You don't have to hurt people, he said. Just protect yourself. Just last long enough. For help. I don't need help, she whispered. You've got me. Her yellow eyes met his. I won't let them cage me again. And he believed her. She was still just a girl. But inside, something powerful was growing. Something they didn't expect. Something they couldn't cage again, not without a fight. Ray needed parts, the kind you couldn't order through legal vendors. So, he took Luma with him into the deep alleys behind Dock C. They walked through steam vents and dark walkways, past flickering lights and broken signs. Luma stayed close. She wore a cap over her head now, and a thick coat to hide her shape. Even still, some passing eyes noticed her, but none dared speak with Ray nearby. They reached an old trader's booth tucked in a forgotten alley. Ray spoke to the trader in hushed tones. Luma waited by the wall, her eyes scanning the shadows. She felt it. Something was wrong. Too quiet. Too many closed doors. No kids running. No workers shouting. Her fingers curled. A noise. Behind. She turned. Too late. A stun rope wrapped around her waist, yanking her backward. She hit the wall hard. Ray spun around just in time to see two masked figures grab her. "Hey!" he shouted. The trader pulled a blaster on Ray. "Sorry, friend, good business." Luma struggled in the rope. One captor reached for her mouth to silence her. Big mistake. Her training kicked in. She bit down, hard. The alien screamed. She twisted her body and drove her heel into his leg. He dropped. The second captor tightened the rope, but Luma slipped her, arm free just as Ray tackled him from behind. The blaster fired, missed, hit a wall. Ray punched the masked alien in the face, hard. The stun rope sparked, releasing Luma. The traitor ran. Coward. The two attackers were down, groaning. Luma stood, shaking but on her feet. Ray ran to her. "You okay?" She nodded, her breathing fast, her eyes wild but no tears. "You fought," Ray said, proud. "I remembered," she whispered. "What you taught me." Ray put a hand on her shoulder. "You did more than remember. You chose. That's courage." They didn't stay long. Ray grabbed the part bag and pulled Luma with him through the smoke. Back home, she sat in silence for a long time. Then she said something Ray would never forget. "I wasn't scared because I was alone," she whispered. "I knew you'd come," Ray nodded, always. The station's upper district was crowded, loud, and full of fake smiles. It was a place for clean shoes, expensive food, and cold hearts. Luma walked there now beside Ray, but this time she wasn't hiding. No coat pulled over her head, no shaking. Hands. She stood tall in her new clothes. Hair washed, skin bright, eyes sharp. People looked at her. Some stared, but none dared whisper trash now. Ray had come to file one last document, adoption code, 11F, cross-species guardianship. No one had ever used it on a discarded alien child before. The officer behind the desk looked confused. "You want her to be your legal daughter?" Ray didn't flinch. "That's right. She's not human. She's mine," he said. "That's enough." Luma stood beside him, silent, heart pounding. "Name?" the officer asked. Ray looked at her. "You get to choose," he said softly. "A name for your new life. Something that's yours." Luma blinked. I thought my name was Luma." Ray smiled. "It is. But do you want to keep it, or choose a new one?" She thought for a moment, then shook her head. "I want to keep it," she said, "because when I said Luma, it was the first time I felt real." Ray nodded. "Then Luma it is." The officer typed the file. The system beeped, registered. Luma, species, unknown. Age, estimated 9 years. Guardian human, Ray Carver. It was done. Ray stood, and so did she. "You're not a stray anymore," he said gently. "You're family." Later, in the quiet of their little home, Luma sat near the heater. She stared at the ID chip in her hand. Her name was written on it. No chains. No numbers, no brand. Just her name, Luma. She looked up at Ray. "Why did you really help me?" she asked. He thought for a long moment, then said, Because you reminded me of someone I used to be. She tilted her head. I was left behind too. Once, he said, but someone gave me a second chance, I just passed it on. She stood, walked over, and hugged him. Not because she was afraid, not because she needed protection, but because she wanted to. She had been thrown away, laughed at, chained, forgotten. But now, she had a home. She had a name. She had a human who stood when everyone else walked away. And soon the galaxy would know. The girl they called worthless was never worthless. She was just waiting for one good soul to see her. And now, she would become something more. Because humans, they didn't just rescue, they rebuilt, they believed. And sometimes, they created warriors from ashes.